This is Believing Buckeyes. I'm Bryant with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We got a very special guest coming all the way from the West Coast, out of Seattle, Washington. One of my guys I used to look up to when I was a small kid watching the Browns play. We got Eric Metcalf. How you doing, man? How are things?
I'm good, man. Just happy to be here. Happy to be a Longhorn right now. You say I only get 4 more days to be happy, and so I got to be as happy as I can be right now.
Yeah, man, it's a good time of the year, man. The holidays are ending. You get a couple more days to live it up, and then off season. What's up, Chill, man? How you doing?
It's been a good run in Texas' first year in the SEC. I really want to just get your thoughts on that, just that transition to SEC first and foremost, and how you think they performed this year going against that SEC. They keep hearing about all this SEC talent. The Big 12 team is the team that's left.
And I think they did well. They lost 2 games all year, and they were both to Georgia, which is the cream of the crop in the SEC, as we both know. And so when people look at the Texas Longhorns and what they actually accomplished, they still think that Texas hasn't done anything because they say the schedule was weak and they didn't really play anybody this year. And a lot of these teams that no one else was in the playoffs other than Georgia. But when I look at it, I say Texas played well because all those teams we beat the teams that are supposed to be the teams in the SEC. And for the most part, we manhandled all of them. And so I hear from a lot of my friends who coach track in the SEC that Texas isn't ready for the SEC. They're not going to be able to do this in the SEC. This is not Big 12 football. But Sark has done a good job of building that roster to be built to play in the SEC week in and week out.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I think, when you look at the new college football landscape with the NIL, the transfer portal, all the different dynamics, I feel like Texas has done, as well as Ohio State, has done a great job in figuring out, what is their approach to making sure that they're going to continue to be the teams with good talent and prepare those guys to play. But we got a big time playoff game coming here, right? And I'm just interested in your perspective. The last game was a close one. It was a tough one against Arizona State. And Arizona State has been hot, really, towards the second half of the season, all the way going into the playoffs. To me, it felt like Arizona State outplayed Texas most of the game, but couldn't get it done. couldn't get it done in key spots. Texas was able to to make those big time plays that win the game. Well, you were at the game, so I just want to get your feel for that entire game from the start to the finish.
If you watched the start of the game, I don't know if you guys watched it, but you would have thought that we were going to blow them out, right? Because that's the way we went into the game. We got out to an early lead, but for some reason, and it's happened throughout the course of the year, that they've gotten big leads and kind of let off the gas, and teams have come back, so games have looked closer than they actually were, and it happened this past week, and once it started for Arizona State, we couldn't stop it. The machine just kept rolling. We were just able to make some plays at the end. So it was a tough game that people say we were lucky to win, but at the same time, we had the opportunity to get the game out of hand. We just didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah. So kind of piggybacking that, because also with that, obviously, us, Ohio State, we lose to Michigan. From there, we go to the playoffs, and now it looks like we're kind of playing our best ball. Right. From Texas standpoint, watching that team, do you think they got to the point now that they have been playing their best, or is it still a little bit more in the tank that they could kind of, look forward to when it comes to Friday and playing Ohio State?
And looking at this team, and every game that I've watched, I've watched all the games. And so I think that Texas has only played one complete game, and that was against Florida. They gave them the business from start to finish. But that's the only game that they actually played a full game, and it looked like the Texas team that we believe that we have. These other games, like I said, they've gotten the game, they've gotten leads, they let off the gas, and teams started coming back and thinking they had a chance to win, and then we ended up having to make plays at the end to secure the victory. Playing Georgia, I think the first one, they just punched us in the mouth. And we weren't ready for that. I'm just going to be honest. We weren't ready for that. The second game, First half, we're beating them down. We just didn't score. We missed a couple field goals. They think they're in it, and then they end up winning in overtime. But that's who Texas has been all year. They haven't played a complete game, and I know come Friday, if they're going to win this game, it's going to have to be a complete game just to give them a chance.
Why is that, you think? I'm sorry, Chin. Why is it? Is it player leadership? Is it the quarterback? Is it the coach? Is it not enough big names on the deep? What, in your opinion, what's the cause of that, and leading them not to kind of, tie it all together?
I just think sometimes on offense we get a little too cute, like Arizona State game. We're winning this game. If we just run the ball. The game is over because they couldn't do anything without the ball, right? And we didn't never establish the run, and that's something that we did against Florida. We ran the ball down their throat, and so it's Texas is a team that obviously Quinn Ewers can throw the ball and he has receivers out there that can catch it. But when it's all said and done, if you want to win football games, you guys well know you have to be able to run the ball. And we have the offensive line that can do it because these guys are one of the best offensive lines in the country. And so I don't know why we get away from that. And so it seems like during the course of the game, we have a lead and it's like we have to blow them out. We have to get style points. No, you don't. You just have to win. You just have to win the game and come out with a victory. And so I think that they've gotten complacent in that, players and coaches, in that they're like I said, they're keeping their foot on the gas pedal, and it's made it hard for them in the end.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Going into this is almost for Ohio State. This is like a second season. This is like a redemption. The playoffs I'm talking about. It's like a redemption season because we lost our rival. The fan base was
again.
That's right. And that's how. So for us, that's a very, very low point. And then you get a chance to go on a playoff run. I think it forced the offensive staff to really look at how they do offense. Let's really look at, we've had a pretty decent offense all year, but after a loss like that, it really forced them to evolve again, right? So Ohio State's in a period right now where they fixed the defense early on after losing to Oregon. They kind of reinvented the offense a little bit after that second loss, and now it feels like everything's clicking for them right now. But I think what's interesting is those first two games, they didn't have a lot of game tape on this new style of offense. This is to be the first game. I think you get two games, what's real and what isn't. Just from Texas perspective, though, like Bryant mentioned, it seems like and you mentioned they haven't played a fully complete game. Why do you feel like they're going to win this game? That's my real question. Like, why do you feel like this is going to be the complete game?
Because Longhorns just do it. No,
okay.
I honestly think that we can win this game because we have players. We have the players on this roster that can go out there and get it done. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you take Texas out of this, going into this whole thing, I picked Ohio State to win it. I thought they had the best team in college football aside from us, just not being biased. So I had to take us out. I thought Ohio State could win this entire thing. And so, it works out where, we know Ohio State has players on defense. The receiver room is unbelievable. They got running backs. I think what comes down for Texas this game, what it comes down to, especially when we're talking about defensively, is keeping Will Howard off his spot. If he's able to be comfortable and throw to those dudes out there, it's going to be a long day for us. And so I think with our defensive line, the guys we have up front, we have the opportunity to keep him uncomfortable. And if we can do that, that gives us a chance to win. Now, we know Will Howard was in the Big 12 and played against Texas. He's never beat Texas. So he wants to win this game, but he also knows that they could give him fits.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that's one of the games when Will Howard signed with Ohio State. We start kind of researching the guy. Like, all right, who do we get here, right? And that's one of the games that I paid a lot of attention to because the Texas game was funny. That it's like he kind of was hitting on some things, but it just wasn't enough, right? Like he was making some plays, he was getting some. His stat line was kind of was pretty good, but once again, it wasn't enough. And as we know, with our team of recent, we kind of always worry about the mental of our team. We know we got the horses, right? We know we got the horses to go with anyone or more horses than anyone, but we're always concerned about the mental. Are we going to get our best game? Are we going to have a huge letdown like we've seen against our rivalry game the last several years? And it's just, I don't know, I guess something to kind of think about there regarding that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your quarterback. Obviously, Quinn Ewers was a Buckeye, right? And, he committed to Ohio State, obviously due to, they say because he didn't beat out C.J. Stroud, he left right away. We know whatever that reason was. Obviously, he's from Texas, so he kind of went back home. So, not a huge shocker there. But when you watch his game and what he brings to the table, do you think that, this is a game that he will be able to kind of go out, let his hair down, and flourish, or is it a game that he might tighten up a little bit because, once again, this was the school he was at, might try to do too much and let the moment get too big, and which lead to, obviously turnovers and bad play and things of that nature.
So when we're talking about that, I think that's Sark's job to keep him composed and keep him ready to play. Dial up plays that are easy for him so he can make plays. But, it's human nature in a game like this to be a little nervous, right? And so as long as he doesn't go out there and press, I think he'll be all right. I think when people talk about Quinn Ewers and watch him play football, you'll hear even a lot of Texas fans say, he can't do this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. But then you turn around and look at his stats, and he has a high pass rating. He has a lot of touchdowns. He has yards. But I think it's his demeanor. And I think not only is his demeanor, but I think it's his where he releases the ball from that it almost looks like he doesn't care. Right? if you really watch him on film or in person, it looks like he doesn't care because he just kind of flings it out there and he's making plays. And so I think people don't think that he's all in the game, which we know as players that you don't have to be rah-rah to go out there and perform. And he's just not one of those guys. And so he's done a great job for the University of Texas football program. He's thrown a touchdown in over 25 games, I'm pretty sure it is. And so I look forward to Quinn going out there and playing against a good, rugged defense in Ohio State and seeing what can happen.
Yeah, I think when I see from Quinn, and you mentioned that, I think when we had C.J. Stroud, it was some similar type of feel from fans. Like he doesn't seem like a leader, or he's not getting the guys pumped up. He doesn't run the ball a lot either. So, quarterbacks who take off and run for 10 yards and jump over a guy, get everybody fired up. Yeah. So when you do a lot of that stuff from the pocket, sometimes the fans don't really feel like you're taking over the game. But for Quinn, to me, what I see a lot of times, it feels like, and I'm not an expert here, but it feels like, those plays where he knows where he's going with the ball, those passes are on point, on target, are perfect. When he has to kind of figure things out, it just seems like sometimes in certain games he struggles with having the feel and anticipating some of those throws. And what I like Ohio State's defensive backs and their defense and their defensive coordinator is since that Oregon game, they've been giving quarterbacks a lot more looks, a lot more things to look at. They got a lot of versatility with the nickel corner, Caleb Downs as a safety, and Nathan Ransom as a safety. Well, those safeties move around a lot, and you don't know if they're playing Tampa 2, cover 3. Caleb Downs could be like a middle linebacker versus run, but also is playing the middle hole. So to me, this is why I see one of the biggest advantages. I think Sark is he's great at scheming up passes. He's great at doing all those things. I think the advantage for Ohio State, the biggest advantage in my opinion, is going to be their versatility on defense and giving that Texas offense a lot of looks, a lot of things to look at. If they can overcome that, then to me it's a game. Right. But that to me, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges.
And that's what I said. That's why I said this has a lot to do with Sark as well, because what he dials up, what he's calling to make Quinn comfortable. Because we know that you guys are going to come in there and do multiple things on defense, give him different looks, try to confuse him, and as well as bring pressure. And so if Sark can dial up plays based on what they've seen on film and have him comfortable and let him get the ball out of his hand, then that's when he's deadly. We saw at the end of the game against Arizona State, when it was dialed up and Sark had the play, this is what we're doing, he's making those throws. And that's why he was making game-winning throws.
What about Arch Manning? What is the
yeah, I was going to ask you because I mean he didn't play in the last playoff game, I don't believe. Do you think we'll see him on Friday?
You might see some packages, but I think right now Quinn is the best opportunity for us to win this game, and that's the problem with a lot of fans in Texas as well, because he's sitting back there waiting, and people want to see Arch Manning and what he can do, because he played a couple games this year. He had some good games running and passing the ball, but if Quinn didn't give us the best chance of winning, then I'm sure Sark will put Arch in the game. So he obviously feels like Quinn gives us the best chance of winning, and he's seasoned. He's more seasoned than Arch. So I think, like I said, if Sark can dial it up right and scheme well against this defense, then we have a chance.
Yeah. In my opinion, like that's your guy, right? You got to live or die with him, right? You can't be, you might lose your offensive line, and somebody else might, kind of get off a kink, if you start trying to switch things up, especially in a critical moment like this. But I would say Ohio State has shown some tendency to struggle against quarterbacks that are a dual threat, right? So I don't know if Manning is capable with his feet, and maybe, I don't know, something to kind of throw us off a little bit if you throw him out there, like you say, in a few packages, and give him that look where obviously he could run and obviously he could really throw as well. It's not like, some guys only can run when he goes out there. Right. So, yeah, something to look at there. I wanted to ask you about something. Now, this is a little bit off kilter, but like you said, you was at the last game, but it was a big thing. Everybody talked about Arizona State's running back, Scottaboo, and all the different things that he did in that game, right? Receiving, running the ball, throwing for a touchdown as well. And that's kind of, similar to your career, right? You was a running back, you played wide receiver as well throughout your years in the NFL. Watching that guy live, was it as special, or was you just kind of mad to see him keep making these plays against your guys at such a critical time?
He was actually better than I thought he was going to be. Let's not give him credit for that halfback pass, because Tim, you'd have taken that out the air, right? Because that pass was terrible. Muhammad just lost it and didn't go make a play. He should have been running the other way with that ball. So we'll take that away.
That was crazy.
Right. But as far as running the ball and catching the ball, I think he did a great job. I mean, he touched the ball 38 times, and that's why they had an opportunity to win that game. But the most impressive play for me that he made in that game was the when he ran up the sideline and caught the deep ball, because not only did he catch it, but he stopped on the DB and made him run into it and then separated again. And so that's like things that receivers do. So when he did that, I was like, okay, maybe this guy really can play.
Yeah, he's a football player. That's what he's one of those guys that just makes plays with confidence, right? I would say on that long catch, it was an offensive pass interference, but I was kind of rooting for Arizona State. So
Right. We're trying to get a light one. We're trying to get a light one on Friday.
I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I got Oregon fans talking about, dang, I want you guys to lose to Oregon State. Arizona State, when they thought they were going to win. Right? When they thought they were going to win, they wanted us to lose because they wanted to play Arizona State. But they were tough. They were there for a reason. They got a bye for a reason. They played well. We just were able to make more plays in the end.
Yeah, I think we got one thing that is going to be a challenge for us, and it's the mental part, because 2 playoff games, 2 blowouts, 2 really good football teams that Ohio State has blown out. And sometimes as a player, you just forget that the next game, there's no equity coming from the last 2 games. Like, you can't bring the extra points and none of that. It's going to be a game in its own. And I think Texas being able to watch 2 games of this offense is going to have more to work with in terms of preparation as well. And they're gonna talk about how they're the underdog and nobody's giving us a chance and all these things from a really good team that's not usually an underdog, right? So I think that's a little bit of mental advantage. So I'm hoping that Ohio State can lock in and treat this game just like they treated the last 2. The last 2 they had, we came coming off a Michigan loss for 1, so everybody was kind of down on the team. So they had the us against the world type mindset, and then Oregon was a team they already lost to, right? So in a Big Ten team this year, right? So it was a little bit of a rivalry. This is the first game to me where in the playoff for Ohio State where there's just nothing to pull from really just for obviously it's a playoff game, it's a tough game, but there's none of that underdog mentality for them to pull from. So I'm hoping they can lock in and start fast like they did the last 2 games.
I'm hoping they don't. I'm hoping they don't. We need to go in there with that same mindset that you said Ohio State had in these past few weeks, as the underdog, knowing that we hadn't played good football throughout the course of the year. And so if we can be our complete selves, then we give ourselves a chance. But if you go in there and play some average football, you're probably going to get blown out. And so this is one of those games where, I feel good about it, but at the same time, I know that we can't just show up and win. This is a real football team. Like I said, I picked Ohio State to win if I take Texas out of it. I said they're the best team in the country. And so we're going to see you on Friday.
Yeah. Now, one more question for you here, because obviously, with Sark, you guys have been trending up, right? You guys are now, back to being one of the top premier teams in college football. I know you're a little biased, right? You probably feel that way every season, but the record now kind of shows that you guys are really back into the running of things. How does that feel? That now that Sark's there, the program is, he has a identity again for Texas football. That there's no longer a question who's the best team in the state of Texas. How does that feel for you as being alumni and seeing your team basically kind of get right the ship in that standpoint?
It feels good. I mean, because where you are wrong is that in previous years, I didn't think that we were back. I didn't think we were back because when in previous years, we weren't keeping everybody in Texas. All the good players in Texas were leaving. And when Sark came, he started to keep those guys. Those guys were starting to stay home in Texas. And on top of him getting guys out of the portal, getting guys from other states coming out of high school, and that's how he's built this roster. And so, of course, it feels good. I don't like losing anything. If we us three sat down and see who could tie their shoes first the fastest, I want to win. I don't care. I want to win, and so I'm happy that Sark has turned this thing around, got us headed in the right direction, and hopefully I can say that we beat Ohio State twice in 1 year. Forget about all this.
Yeah. We got that season opener going on next year. That's right. Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. But Eric, we really appreciate it, man. You taking your time joining us. You obviously catch Eric on the Dog Check podcast where he's covering the Cleveland Browns, my team as well. So I catch your show all the time here on what's it called? FanDuel. So we catch the show there all the time here locally here in Ohio. We appreciate you taking your time. I know you're traveling to the game on Friday down in Texas, the Cotton Bowl. So, I wish you safe travels.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
But I kind of hope you have a bad time, though.
Terrible time.
Welcome.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Talk with you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Man, that was great, man. So, like I said, I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan. So, when I was a little kid, we used to talk about like Metcalf, what Metcalf could do. And that's like my uncles, my grandfather, my dad talking about the Browns, man. So, that was a very cool conversation. I know some of my uncles going to catch the show. They'll probably give me some heat, man. But, yeah, that's like, in Cleveland, man, we hold on to our good guys, man. He was a good one for us, man, for a handful of years, man.
I need to hold on to a good quarterback. But that's
man, come on, man. Don't do it like that, man. But yeah, man, we're still alive, man. We're alive here. We're currently on the home network on the Believe page, man. So if anyone's out there got any questions regarding the big win here, you got a few minutes? We want to dive into this Oregon stuff, man. Or what you want to do, man?
Yeah. Let's kind of recap the Oregon playoff game and then preview what we have coming. And I mean that Oregon game, man. What an amazing game in the Rose Bowl. The granddaddy of them all, right? I had my Rose Bowl hat on from 2010 when we beat Oregon. Watched the whole game. That was kind of my lucky hat, right? I don't have a Cotton Bowl hat, but yeah, that just another fast start. I think Oregon, and we talked about it live after the show, but I think Oregon struggled with a little bit of rust, just a little bit of getting going early. and we didn't give them a time to really blink. And then, we also have to recognize that, this Ohio State offense has changed kind of their approach to the game, right? Leading with attacking explosive plays.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith as basically the number one option on the offense, and then everything after that. Outside runs, kind of majoring a little bit more in outside runs than they did before, and getting a lot of explosive runs from it, and having a bunch of counters and play action off of that. It's similar to, after they lost to Oregon early on, when they said we just basically re-engineered the defense overnight. It pretty much, after the game, it seemed like, after the Michigan game, it seemed like they just went back to the drawing board and said, what do we have to do to be successful?
Yeah. No, it had to. Yeah, right. I mean, and it's been just a pleasure to see, right? I mean, we expected a lot of things from our offense coming into the season, right? Obviously, we had a lot of guys coming in. We had Will Howard coming from the transfer portal. We had Junkins into the backfield with Travion Henderson. We heard all the good things about Jeremiah Smith, right? We never seen him. And then we got our guys coming back, Emeka, Carnell Tate, G. Scott Jr. at the tight end position. And it's like, we were expecting a lot out of these guys. I mean, and rightfully so. Like, we talk about those names, Chip Kelly, offense, the people that I just named regarding the players. We're expecting to have a tremendous season for them to kind of be able to run up and down the field on anyone. And essentially, that's what we've really been getting, right? I mean, we a little hiccups here or there. But it's like the Nebraska game, right? A little hiccup there, not the best offensive day, but pretty much for the season, we've been really rolling. And so the Michigan game was really just a shocker, right? Just like, what happened? What happened? Why was we just so bad? We couldn't get anything going. And then it felt like, whenever we lose a game like that, it's like the fastest game in history, right? It's like the game was over in an hour, right? The time just kind of flies off the clock. We don't have the ball that often. We're pressing. Nothing is clicking. We out of sync. 3 and outs, turnovers, all the bad things that can happen to an offense is really what we got in that last game of the season. So now, backs against the wall, right? If some fans are calling for the head coach's job, questioning if Chip Kelly still has it. Should we let him go since him and Dare close? Well, if we let one go, we probably need to let the other one go. What's going on with our offensive line? Do we need a new coach in here? We're not getting the recruits we wanted at the offensive line position. So now it's kind of catching up. All this kind of noise is kind of going around, right? Yep. But when you go out there and play like we did against Tennessee, and obviously take that same game plan on the road in the Rose Bowl, no one questions anything. It's now back to patting you in the back and talking about how great your roster is and how great of a coach you are and all the things that you've done well. And so it's good that we to this point. We got 2 wins, right? But like you was just saying with Metcalf there, that's not, what they say, job not done.
Job not done.
The job not done. We need to see that again against a Texas team where I feel like if this is another week, if we could get up on this Texas team and then make Ewers have to make plays to get his team back into it, I think due to our defense and the multiple things that we could give at them looking, this thing could get ugly quick if we jump up on them and get a couple points, and then they have to throw the ball, make them feel like they have to throw the ball and make big plays to get back into it.
Yeah, I almost hate to say it, man. I almost hate to say it because this is how I felt prior to Oregon game as well, but I had to keep it close because it's like I can't say they're gonna blow out Oregon. I predicted 10 points. 10 points is my blowout. If I think it's gonna be if I think they can actually beat them by a lot of points, I'm gonna go with 10 because that gives me. But it's you kind of think what actually happened. How come they haven't been playing like this all year? And what people got to understand is you got a lot of great talent, but a lot of coaching experience as well. And you think that all those things lead to a great team, and they do, but you got to work through some stuff, right? You got Ryan Day's approach to the game plan. You got Chip Kelly's approach. 2 different kinds of approach. I know they kind of came up in the same coaching tree or whatever, but 2 different kinds of approaches. You got a Jeremiah Smith and a Emeka Egbuka at receiver, but you got Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson at running back. And you can so easily come up with a running back led, like a running type game plan and focus on doing that all season and feel like, we can win this way. Or you could say, look, let's lead with some of these great passers, these great receivers, and you can win that way. With all these different ways you can win, what is the best way? And I think having to like wipe the slate clean after a loss and say, okay, what is the best way based on all of our experience, everything that we've all collectively have done, what is the best way to maximize his talent? That's where they're at. And honestly, I think the game plan stays the same. I don't think there's a mystery for Texas going in outside of, you always scheme stuff up, but the approach is going to be the same approach for Texas. They're going to have to prove that they can stop it. And when you watch Texas defense, really good defense, one of the best defenses in the country, so was Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And Texas has certain matchups that could potentially be exploited if they don't change things up defensively, in my opinion. And I don't think Tennessee or Oregon changed much of defensively of what they've done all season. They're going to have to figure out how to stop Jeremiah Smith first and foremost. How do we stop him? How do we slow him down? Because they're going to lead. He's the head of the snake right now, and we got to slow that down. And then from there, they're going to have to figure out everything else, right? Yeah. And it requires this team to double Jeremiah. Like, they have to double him, not just two high safeties. Like, they have to, in third down situations, certain situations where they need to really play tight coverage, they got to put two on him and put another safety, in my opinion, in the middle of the field, and then let everybody else match up. And that's when, Ryan Day can tap Travion Henderson, Carnell Tate, the guys, get them open. But at some point, you gotta force those guys to beat you, right? Dangerous.
No, but I think that is a good point, though. Like you say, like, you got to force the other guys to beat you, because we know Jeremiah Smith is going to beat you, right? And another thing you could say is kind of looking at the last two games in particular, like, Will Howard is looking for Jeremiah Smith, right? He's dropping back, and he's looking for him to give him the ball. I think it was some examples especially early in the Oregon game, where some guys was coming open, lose, and you can kind of see Will was kind of, locked on to Jeremiah Smith, kind of waiting for him to get his step before he let the ball go, and those plays ended up being successful. So, I mean, like you said, you got to switch it up, right? You just can't. If you just line up and think that, things are going to go well, you're going to hope that Will Howard makes the mistakes that kind of keeps them and put them in the game. I don't think that's the approach to take. You need to try to find a way to try to attack us, to try to get things off balance, maybe make some mistakes, make some turnover, things of that nature. But right now, if we keep playing like we were playing like the first two games, like I said, I think Texas is a good defense. I think they're only allowing on average 14 points a game. But to be frank, they haven't faced an offense like Ohio State. And, no team has. So, we kind of go in there and get our horses going, play clean ball, no mental mistakes. It's really tough to stop us from scoring points, and that's just the nature of it, to be frank.
And while Quinn Ewers has been up and down, he can throw a good, accurate football. I think his challenges, from what I see, is mostly decision making. When he's indecisive, he doesn't do a great job of throwing guys open, doesn't do a great job of going through his reads and identifying who that guy is that should be open in any given play. Mm-hmm. But when he knows where he's going with it and they scheme something up, just like in the Arizona State game, he could throw a really, really good pass. So this is what makes me feel the most confident, is really the defense, and just being able to keep the game in a place where Ohio State can go win it is the versatility defensively. Ohio State's offense and defense, to me, are similar in that they got a lot of talent in a lot of places, but guys who could do a lot of stuff, right? The running backs can get out and catch passes. You can pretty much design run-type plays for Mecca Ibuka, screens for Jeremiah Smith, etc. A lot of guys could do a lot of stuff. The quarterback can run. Defensively, it's similar, where you have basically three safeties with Jordan Hancock, who can move around in different ways and do a lot. The corners can tackle. The defensive ends can drop in coverage or spy on the quarterback, et cetera. So that diversity of talent on both sides just makes it so hard to game plan on the other side. And you kind of need a hero. Quinn Ewers would just have to play his best game and could really be the hero. If not, if he's similar to what I've seen on tape in his kind of indecisiveness, without Sark coming up with just a master game plan and, identifying, understanding how Ohio State's trying to attack you defensively and being able to get guys open, it's going to be hard for them on offense to continue to create points, the type of points I think they need to create to match Ohio State's offense.
Yeah, but now let's take it a step back, because now Metcalf stated himself that Texas gets too cute and they play calling, right? They kind of, obviously Sark is a mastermind. That's why he's been the head coaches of universities, and the job he did at Alabama before he got his job there at Texas. They get too cute. But earlier in the season, when I watched Texas play, and what always had me, a tad bit concerned about, Texas being one of those top teams in the nation, and us potentially have to see in them, it's the running game. They're led by Weissner, who now has over 1,000 yards on the season. I recall them going up north and Ewers gearing himself up, like, playing that team up north, going to Michigan and playing them on the road. And essentially, they took it to Michigan early, and how they really did it with running the ball, right? They ran the ball so they got down to the field, red zone area, then Ewers can kind of hit a strike and score a touchdown, because obviously they have the ability to do both. But to me, Texas being able to run the ball behind their strong offensive line, behind their strong running back, was something that always a little bit of a concern, just like, because now, like I said, if we get a lead and now they feel like they have to pass, advantage to Ohio State.
Yeah.
But just like us playing Michigan, if they could run the ball and control the clock in that fashion, have some long drives, maybe our offense get a little bit out of the sync on the sideline, because they're 3, 4, 5 yards, first downs, kind of keep going in that fashion. That could be a plan for them to kind of try to get a hold of that game and slow down some of that offense that we know is really rolling, and putting a little bit more pressure on them that maybe their defense is not giving them, but the pressure that you put on yourself when you get that feeling that I'm just not on the field a lot. So now I got to press a little bit more, because we're not getting a ton of opportunities due to what they're doing in their running game. So that's something we have to kind of keep in mind going into this game, that, Texas can't run the ball, and we need to, as always, stop the run first and force them in some of those passing situations where, I feel like advantage goes back to Ohio State.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think if there's an approach to winning, being able to establish that run and, control the field position, not allow Ohio State to get good field position, make them drive down the field, and potentially force a turnover. I mean, that's the formula for success. You force a turnover, and Will Howard, I mean, if you go through all the games, even some of our blowouts, like, he's had turnovers early. And if you're Texas, you want to force him to turn the ball over, get yourself in a good position, score some points, and then, hopefully from there, continue to control the clock, force Ohio State to have to drive the field to score. That was the Michigan formula. And if they did get in the red zone, maybe bracket Jeremiah Smith, don't get the easy throw up for a touchdown, and force Ohio State to get the points in the hard way. What Ohio State has been able to do in the playoffs so far is get points. 40-yard line, we get a touchdown. Yeah. Right? 35-yard line, we get a touchdown. Right? So never having to actually go into the red zone where the field shrinks and get some of those harder touchdowns. So, obviously that's the formula they're going to continue to try to create, and Texas has to eliminate those explosive plays. That's one of those things. It's just good luck trying to do it versus some of these receivers on Ohio State's offense.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, Joe, I want to get into this chat, man. We got it's our first time kind of being over. We had to kind of click over and find the comments. Like we got a good amount of comments going in here. Our guy GOJ is kind of lighting us up. Go Bucks, man. We appreciate you tuning in. I wanted to get to the first question that we have here on this list. Just kind of asked a few minutes ago, but they basically asked about the advantage. Obviously, this game is taking place in Dallas. Yeah. At the Cowboy Stadium. And the question is basically, SP fan asked, does Texas have an advantage being in Dallas? The short answer to that is obviously yeah, right? Yeah. They're short drive. Their fan base is a short drive from the university. Obviously, Texas is all about Texas football. Them being the biggest university and the most historic university in the state. Yeah, so definitely I would say advantage to them in that standpoint. I actually went to the last game Ohio State had in Dallas, which was last Bowl season. We played Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. My first time actually traveling as a fan to go to a bowl game, and we completely laid the egg in that stadium against them, only scoring, I believe, 3 points on the day. And again, I mean, Missouri was a good team, but we was not prepared to play that game. I was looking forward to other things. But we should be more in tune to this one. I've been watching some things that at practice, they're not listening to music. They're pumping in the crowd noise, kind of anticipating that this to kind of feel more like a home game for Texas. But what is your thoughts on that, Chim? Does Buckeye Nation travel well like we did to the West Coast? We was thinking we'd probably be down a little bit there, but we stood up, right? It was, I don't know, felt like 50, 55, 45 type of percentage there in the crowd, but obviously it'll be tough to do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I think Texas will have the clear advantage from a fan standpoint. You got to think this is the first time we've had a playoff, and there's a lot of playoff games. You go home game, then the Rose Bowl game, then the Cotton Bowl, and then potentially a national championship, and people are weighing their options. Like, do I go to the Cotton Bowl, or do I go ahead?
Can I pay all these flights? Like, what's going on? How does this shake out? Right.
So if you're in Texas, you're already there, right? It's a drive up, or it's right there. So I think they have the fan advantage. I think that's going to be an advantage for sure. I do think from Ohio State standpoint, if they can communicate, coaches can prepare them for a road game. Like if they take that approach, like we're going on the road, hostile environment, just like they would if they were going to Penn State or somewhere else. I think that allows them to focus in a little bit more because, like I mentioned before, Texas doesn't. There's nothing to pull from like they did versus Oregon, where this is a team we already lost to. This was the Big Ten champion. They took one of our goals from us. Let's go get it back. Or the first game, this is a game against a SEC team at home, but it was coming off, a big letdown versus Michigan. So now the mindset here is that, this is a business trip. We're going on the road in a hostile environment. Let's lock in, focus. Is this going to be us versus the state of Texas? Basically, I mean, obviously there's going to be some Buckeye fans there, but they're not going to match the Texas fans. I think that bodes well in terms of focus. But from an environment standpoint, crowd noise standpoint, I think it benefits Texas. And we've been there. We've played LSU in the Superdome in New Orleans, right? Yep. It's just hard. It's going to be hard to match that level of fans from a fan standpoint. But there'll be, if things go good for Ohio State, there'll be enough. There'll be enough there for sure.
Right, and J World, I don't know the proper name of the state. I'm gonna call it J World, like most people do. I mean, it fits a lot of people. It's an interesting stadium how north and south was built. Like it kind of, everybody's kind of like over the field. So you get some good things going. Buckeye Nation get the pumping in there, and we could get that Texas crowd. Worry about other things. Looking at the big jumbotron, and enjoying themselves in the stadium more or less than what they're enjoying seeing on the field due to our Ohio State play, man. So, so I want to talk about this, man. Like I said, GLJ, Buckeye fan here is in this chat. He's put some stats in there, some things in there. But he touched a little bit on our offensive line, and he basically, I'm gonna read it. He said they finally realized that the patch job for the O-line was basically not great for stretch inside zone, but gap schemes has kind of been helping out our offensive line and playing better. And man, I had to say that's spot on, right? I mean, obviously I'm a former offensive lineman, and a lot of times I don't like the way we go about running the ball when it comes to some of the stuff we call. And a lot of it kind of goes into some of those single blocks when you start talking about outside zones and things on the edge and that nature, where you essentially kind of, there's not too many double teams. Like, everybody has to kind of win for it to kind of be almost a successful play. But with a gap scheme, you get a double team. Obviously, we know our guys inside are younger. We start looking at our offensive guards for rotating in Luke Montgomery in that position as well. And he's been playing fantastic, very physical football for the young guy. But the gap scheme, it's like, you really kind of get after some guys. You get a good double team at the point. You work yourself up to a linebacker. And then with our running backs with their speed, if you could create that lane and they hit that lane, they get to that second level clean with their speed, that's Trevion Henderson's wish, right? He get there with his speed. He's straight to the sideline. No one could catch him once he kind of takes off and get into his full stride. We obviously seen that against Oregon. Him hit on one real big run in particular, and also Judkins and his physical style of running the ball as well. And I think he kind of averaged the game. Man, it was 6-7 yards a carry. Didn't feel like he did much, but at the end, you look at the stats like, well, you can't complain about a guy getting 6-7 yards a pop. But what do you say about our offensive line? Obviously, Texas is another test. But we've been checking, we've been kind of on a little streak here with our offensive line kind of holding up against some tougher opponents.
I mean,
can they do it on the road now where maybe the crowd noise is a factor into the game?
I think they can, but I think we need success in the pass to help them out. And I say that offensively, when you get a little bit of that momentum and you get a little bit of that tempo going, you got the defense scrambling a little bit, trying to get into the right call, but they got to hurry up and line up. And then you punch them in the mouth. That is a much better approach than I think specifically for, the offensive line, some of the new guys in there, than, slowing it down, huddling up, doing all, because the juices are flowing. Like everybody's excited, pumped up, and the momentum is going. And then what you see offensively, a lot of different looks. Now, if I'm a defense, I'm pointing out Jeremiah Smith every play, right? We're trying to identify where he's at, and that might even dictate which safety rolls down. That might dictate, where we might play a cloud coverage or, more cover 2, et cetera. But you see them, they got him moving around. Sometimes in the slot, he's motioning over. And with the tempo, the defense, you could see it. Oregon, last game when we played Oregon, it seemed like our defense was the one not getting lined up, confused. But this time, you see Oregon signaling, looking back, and the ball being snapped. And then you're getting punched in the mouth, Yeah. So I think collectively, the approach collectively, what they've been able to do is kind of maximize the talent, but also just that approach has allowed those offensive linemen to be, they just seem to be playing tough, physical, and a little bit more free, right? Yeah. Like, I'm going to go hit somebody, right? It may not be perfect. It may not be perfect, but I'm going to go hit somebody every play, and good things are going to happen. And I like that, and I kind of like the momentum that they have offensively, collectively, especially at offensive line. So shout out to the offensive line, man.
Yeah, man. Coach Fryer, man, the whole crew,
Yeah, we've for the last couple of years, they've been on Coach Fry's head, right?
Yeah, man. But some of it's been rightfully so, because obviously you look at last year's offense, right? The season before, it just felt like, it just felt like we're going the wrong direction. It felt like we're not quite identifying who do we have as an offensive line or R5, and then what we're expected to kind of gather on the next level. Just couldn't quite get it together. This year, we bring in Seth McLaughlin, and we don't have those issues, right? Then we got Josh Simmons at left tackle. It seemed like a lot of times he used to get kind of confused about his assignment. We didn't have those issues this year. We're really rolling. And then boom, all of a sudden injuries hit us. And now, the question marks kind of come back in on, are we going to be able to kind of overcome it? So far we've been playing really good football up front. Carson Hinsman stepping back in at that center position, kicking out Donovan Jackson to left tackle. Really been kind of rolling, man. But I brought up Donovan Jackson. I just kind of thought about this. Donovan Jackson is from Texas. We got a few Texas players. We got Donovan Jackson from Texas. James Peoples, the freshman running back, who's kind of 6-yard number 3 running back, also is from Texas as well. So they're kind of returning home. They don't get obviously Donovan Jackson played at Texas last year, but this would be People's first time, getting to come home and play in the state of Texas. So, got to be a little juice there for those guys, right?
Yeah. It's always good to go home, especially if you win. it's not as great where you lose. I want to hit on something. There was a clip that came out from Emmanuel Acho. So this, not connected to some of the other stuff. No, he just talked about, and obviously he's a Texas guy, right? He went to Texas, played there, so he's just like Metcalf, they're trying to figure out, what do we do to beat this team? But one thing he mentioned, he said Will Howard is the worst quarterback of the 4 left. He's the worst one left. And I had to. I had to.
Like, right, crazy statement.
It sounded so crazy when I first heard it. So then I had to think about it, right? So you have Juala, who everybody speaks highly of, and I think he projects well.
Climbing up, right? He's like climbing up the draft.
He projects well for the next level. I don't think he's had the greatest year, but he has had a really good playoff. Then you have Riley Leonard.
Yep,
for
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. To me, he's been very up and down all year, but he's a great player. He had a good game, leading them to a win. I don't think he had a great game passing per se.
That's why, yeah.
But leading them to
put
a
the
win.
team on the back and made some plays when needed. Yeah,
and then Quinn Ewers, who has been high on draft boards for the last couple years, but has
it's coming out of high school, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's been inconsistent. Where would you rank Howard in that group of quarterbacks?
To be honest, so and I kind of
for college.
That's the thing. So that's what I'm about to say. To me, he's the best quarterback, right? So if you're looking at those four, the body of work that they have put out through their college career, he's number one. Now, Acho's maybe thinking like pro level. Yeah, probably pro level. Matter of fact, I still think he's probably a better pro than Leonard is out of Notre Dame. But obviously, he doesn't have the arm strength of Ewers, who has all this, different type of fancy and funny releases that he kind of can zip the ball around. The Drew Ayler thing, like I like Drew. He's from Northeast Ohio, but I personally just don't see it. I when he does have an opportunity, he can throw a good deep ball with some nice touch to it. Seems like he could kind of at times find that perfect spot to place the ball, which is, some guys can't do. I feel like you should take advantage of how easy C.J. Stroud used to do that over his Ohio State career, like his placement with the ball. But yeah, I don't know, man. But we're playing college right now, so we're not talking about the pros and potential. A lot about pros and NFLs, a lot about potential, potentially what the guy could do, but potentially how the guy can improve. We're not talking about that. We're talking about college football, and college football to me, watching Will Howard this season with all those quarterbacks talking about this season, it's definitely Will Howard. It's really not. It's not even. I mean, I guess the closest is Ewers, but Leonard and Ayler, like, it's
I honestly think Will Howard is the best quarterback, best college football quarterback left because of all the things that he does and the level of efficiency. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm going on the limb. I'll go on the limb to say he probably has the best QBR. And I don't even want to take that into consideration. I think just from an efficiency standpoint, he's probably the top one out of the four. He has been susceptible to locking in, kind of predetermined, and having a pick here and there. But that's what quarterbacks do. That's what quarterbacks do. So yeah, I if I was to pick one quarterback to lead us out of the four, I would go with Will Howard at this point, just based on all of the games that I've seen all season. I think Drew Ayler has probably matched him in the playoffs not in terms of stats or nothing like that, but just his play. His play has been really good. Penn State does not have the same weapons that Ohio State has. So what Drew Ayler has done in the playoffs, I think has been impressive. But full season and full college career, I really like Will Howard, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I know Acho say some things, and he said with a real stern, and he said a lot of like big words with it, and people were like, oh, is he really preaching? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, obviously he got other things to kind of worry about, man. But seems like because it was a little that situation was kind of fun, but yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really worried about that. And like you said, we don't have a ton of a bulletin board material into this game. Hopefully, stuff like that, exactly. Will is grabbing and kind of grabbing some inspiration off of it. And like you say, Acho went to Texas, so maybe after the game he could give him a shout out like Will Howard like to do was when people disrespect him before the game and the game goes his way.
Yeah. So real quick, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted platform and your number one source for online betting. So that's in all sports. Football, basketball, etc. So if you're looking for a platform to bet on, has all the stats, everything that you need, all the odds. So check out BetOnline for that. Now I want to get your scoring prediction.
Okay,
let's just score prediction for this game.
First of all, I got to pat myself on the back. All right, last week I had it 34-21 Ohio State. I was off by 1 touchdown, but I mean, just pulling numbers out of the hat. I mean, that's fairly close, man. So I think I want to give myself props for that. Yeah, man. But for this game here, obviously, I think Ohio State will be able to win this game. Haven't thought much about the score, so I'm just going to pull some numbers out here. We scored 41 against Oregon. We scored 42 against Tennessee. So I'm going to keep up with that trend. I say we score 40 points against Texas. Texas scores, this is going to sound bad, man, 14 points. I get Texas 2 touchdowns. They figure out how to score 2 touchdowns. So I'm taking Ohio State 40-14. I see the spread from Vegas is Ohio State by 5.5. I don't think it would be that close. Once again, I think we better figure it out and really kind of put them in a blender early and we run away with it. What you got?
It feels like Texas is going to approach this game a little bit more unconventionally than all the other games. I think they recognize what everybody else recognizes, that if we do the same thing we always do, it's going to be another blowout for Ohio State. So I think early on, they're able to match Ohio State just because they're going to have some wrinkles that are just hard to prepare for. It's hard to prepare for some stuff. And Sark has a long history of football. He can draw some stuff in the sand that can be a challenge. So I think early on it's close. And I think eventually Ohio State pulls away. And I think the score ends up similar to what we saw in Oregon. I think you got to score 30 points to win this game at least. So I'm going to go with 35-17 Ohio State gets the win and moves on to the championship.
I got you. Appreciate that. One more question out the fan. GOJ's been hanging with us all the way, so I'm just going to give him a shout out, man. He's rocking our comments. We really appreciate you tuning in. CP fan came back with another question here. Are the coaches distracted at all with the transfer portal during the playoffs? I'm going to let you tackle that one first. Well, I don't know. I gather my thoughts, I guess. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, though? Obviously, a lot of movement's been going on. We've been signing guys, right? Linebackers, running backs.
They're distracted. Listen, college football, for a college football coach in this era, no, forget about this era. Prior to the transfer portal and all that stuff, for a college football coach, there's a lot of distractions. There's a ton of distractions. School's a distraction, whether or not the kids going to class is a distraction, recruiting is there's a lot of distractions. In this era, there's a lot more. And the transfer portal going on during the playoffs is a distraction. You got kids who are considering transferring. You got kids who are deciding to transfer. Some of those kids you want, and I say kids, but they're grown men, but some of them you want to keep, so you have to figure out, like, do we recruit them? And at the same time, you're recruiting players to get yourself ready for next year as well. So yes, it's a distraction. It's one you can't ignore. It's one of those distractions that you can't ignore. So that's just the nature of the beast. This is why being a college football coach is hard, especially being one at a school like Ohio State or a school like Texas.
Yeah. And like you said, I think you kind of hit on the head. But I think our tight end Gord just entered the transfer portal. So I don't know if he did like Devin Brown, he still plan on playing because obviously he plays, right? But he just said he's going to put his name into the portal.
I think Mitchell Melton as well, the defensive end / outside linebacker who is a productive player for Ohio State, has decided to enter the transfer portal. Now, I don't know if that means he's leaving now or not, but that's a player who is productive. Like, he's a good player, right?
Right. He's a good player. Yeah. So things like that does affect the team. Like you say, you would think at this point, with the point of emphasis, that there is someone's job to kind of look in a little bit more and kind of have some type of budget and probably think about potential positions, right? Okay, we may need some guys here. So, and obviously, like off the line, right, we were able to sign a few guys there. Tight end, like, we kind of been thin there for over the last couple of years. We signed the guys there. So you would think, there's some guys who doesn't have so much work to do on the field, kind of looking at things and, maybe relaying some information to position coaches and kind of, making quick decisions. Yeah, go pursue it, don't pursue it type of situations. But I don't know. It's tough, but you gotta do it, right? Because if we're not doing it, someone else is doing it, and then we'll be looking at 25 where we kick off the season against Texas, and we were talking about how we don't have guys in this room in this position, so we might be a little bit lacking. And
you got to
that's
do
not
it.
how we do things at Ohio State. We never lack.
It's like a parent with 9 kids. I got 9 kids. Yeah, I got 3 or 4 that are doing that's an important event, but you still got to deal with the other 5. Like, you can't ignore them. Somebody got to pick them up from practice and stuff. So that's just the reality. That's just the nature of the beast, and you just got to do it.
You got to do it. You got to do it, man. But yeah, man, that's our show. Real quick, I guess who you just quickly, who are you pulling for in the other semifinal game, Notre Dame and Penn State?
Dang, that's tough because Marcus Freeman, former teammate, I want him to be wildly successful unless he's playing Ohio State. But I want to see all Big Ten national championship. And also, you know how I feel about Penn State. So if Ohio State is playing Penn State, I'm penciling Ohio State in as a national champion. So that's how I feel. So I'm rooting for Penn State. I want them to make it. I want it to be all Big Ten. I want all the playoff money to go to the Big Ten. And, I feel like Ohio State versus Penn State, Ohio State big time advantage. I think if there's one defense left to me, and I hate to say this right before the Texas game, but if there's one defense left that I think can really slow down Ohio State's offense, it's Notre Dame. But I might take that back. They got some guys. They got some key defensive players that are hurt and didn't play.
But it doesn't seem like it affect them much, man. Right? That guy's kind of Like I said, I would love to see all Big Ten, but I gotta pull with Notre Dame really for 2 reasons. One, because it's free, right? Get him to the championship. That would look very great, his college career. But another thing, I don't want to play Penn State twice, right? We just played Oregon twice. We see how it went. Obviously, we played Penn State once in the season. We usually win, and they gotta kind of mentally kind of figure out how to get better to beat Ohio State. So hopefully, playing them twice, that may be the thing that they need to finally turn on the lights. Because usually we play, I'll be honest, like we really kind of take it to them, right?
Yeah.
Drew Elliott doesn't play well against Ohio State, that's for sure. So hopefully
never does.
We don't want to play them twice, and all of a sudden they kind of figure some things out, and they got the extra motivation because we already beat them once at home. So I don't know. That's our thought. Yeah, but follow us on YouTube, our page, Believe in Buckeyes on YouTube. Follow our podcast as well if you already not subscribed. Really appreciate you guys being with us as we went live this evening with Eric Metcalf from the Dog Pound podcast covering the Cleveland Browns. Him being a former Texas Longhorn. It was fun. It was fun. It was a long Monday, man. I had to start back working, man. So it was a long day. Kind of tired, but this was a good one, man. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to us. My guy GOJ all day, SP fan with the questions, Eric, the leader of the Believing crew, logging in as well, throwing out scores. We really appreciate you guys. We will talk to you soon, but we end all our shows with a nice OH.
Ayo.
Go Bucks, and we talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.